No, we're live now. We're live now. Hey, good evening and welcome to a lockdown special. Well, it's not really special. It is our normal day for swinging from the hip. And look, it's me. I'm back again. I don't know how long for. Hopefully, I can come back regularly. And we're waiting for a few of the guys to come and join us. And we've got a few test matches and a couple of Super Smash finals to talk about this week. So hopefully, we'll get some guys coming shortly. I know that they're on their way. I think they're just parking the car. but joining me, who's been filling the seat for me and keeping it warm while I've been busy, is Paul. So come and join me, Paul. How you doing?
Not so bad, not so bad. It's apart from the fact that it's raining here in Waihi, and in my new house, I figured out that my sunroom has got a number of leaks, and so I've got 4 buckets at the moment collecting water in my sunroom. So hopefully,
it's not a leak. That's a feature.
That's a feature. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I got 4 water features
in the sunroom.
In the sunroom, yes.
There's always a level of irony when you have water in the sunroom, isn't it?
Exactly. As someone said, yeah, look, hey, it's a sunroom. It never said it could cope with rain. It's absolutely true.
Yes. Well, as I said, there's a few games that are like one currently going on, which is enthralling. Actually, I actually did catch some of the England-India game last night. India wrapping up England's innings and then coming in themselves for a couple of hours last night as well, or about an hour or so last night. So we've got that we could go over. That's happening right now, and we'll give you a score update on that. You're probably watching it in the background as well. And we've got Bangladesh, West Indies, which wrapped up yesterday as well. A rather interesting game, that one, with obviously a pitch that looks to have broken up quite severely as the match wore on. Super Smash finals, we had the Magicians versus the Blaze, and followed by the Firebirds and the Stags. If I'm not mistaken, was it the Stag? No, what was it? It was the. I've forgotten who it was. It was the Stag. No, it was the Stag.
No, I'm sure it wasn't. A man who might know is Taz. How you doing, Taz?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm just googling quickly what the Super Smash final was.
It was Canterbury versus Wellington.
Oh yeah. So Firebirds and the Knights, not Knights. What do they call themselves? What do they call themselves?
Canterbury Kings these days.
Kings. Yes. Kings. How you doing, Taz?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. I see you've done some upgrading and got some new hardware. You got a microphone there.
Yeah. I had this for. I did some recordings last year with a friend of mine on completely different topics. So I had it since then. So.
No, that's great. And you got a new studio too, or you're in the garage and you've upgraded the garage?
And no, I'm in the bedroom, mate.
One of the things that we did talk about whilst Ashwin was had his weeks off was with the run, was that it's great to have you on, Taz, because obviously we've not had cricket in Pakistan for ages. So it'd be good to have a quick chat about the wickets that South Africa and Pakistan have been playing on, because obviously we've not seen them for a long time. So it'd be good to get your insight into that at some point during the show.
Yep, sure.
I was actually thinking, that's a series that we'll sort of go chronologically. Is that the right word? Chronologically, and we'll sort of just cover off since Taz joined us tonight. We'll cover off that series, Pakistan, South Africa. Obviously, they had test matches, T20s and ODIs. Why don't you give us a summary of how the tour, South Africa's tour of Pakistan, went down? Because that finished a couple of days ago.
I think yesterday was the last game for the T20s. So Pakistan won obviously 2-0 in the test matches, and in the in the T20, 2-1. I think quite convincingly. Pakistan obviously toppled South Africa.
Sorry, quite convincingly 2-1. That's that.
Well, it was wrapped up 2-0, wasn't it?
To both the series. I mean, overall, it's 4-1. If you see it that way.
Was there some one-day games as well, wasn't there? No one-day games. Just the test series. And that just shows how much cricket that I've been able to watch in the last sort of 6, 7, 8 weeks. Bugger all. But so basically, with that T20 series, Pakistan went ahead with winning the first two, and then South Africa winning. No.
Pakistan
Oh,
won the first one by 3 runs. It was a close game.
yep.
And the second one, South Africa won
Yep.
comfortably. And the third one, Pakistan won in the 19th over. So
That was the one last night, sort of. Or,
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Ah, nice. And standout players for you that sort of like for Pakistan and for South Africa?
So for Pakistan, it was Rizwan. He scored runs. I think he scored a 50. And then the game he didn't score runs was probably scored runs in all 3 games, to be honest. He scored 42, 51, and 104. Ooh. So he carried on with his, I think it's been find of 2021 for Pakistan. Because personally, I never thought he would have been as good as he is in the T20s. He was always meant to be very good in Test cricket, but he's just proved a lot of critics wrong, including myself, because I thought there will be a couple of other young keeper batsmen who might get a go ahead of him in T20s. But now, fair play, he's played incredibly well. I mean, our captain Babar was obviously he's coming back from injury, so he had I think got run out early in the first game and didn't take on in the second one. But in the third one, I think he scored. I think he chased. Yeah, he scored 44 of 30. So he's back with runs, which is good. But Pakistan played 14 players in 3 games. So so they kind of, I think, especially in terms of they're still figuring out their best combinations before the World Cup's happening next year. You know.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a case with like, and we can talk about this later on as well, and with Australia, New Zealand, assuming that those matches go ahead, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But obviously, that's going to be the sort of flavour of the day, isn't it? With the T20 internationals coming along in the next few months, anyway, is that there'll be a lot of experimenting from some sides to see who their best squads are.
Yeah, I guess some of the teams would be obviously looking for the combinations, but more importantly, like the bigger teams, especially, would be looking to test their bench strength, because if you want 1 or 2 key players sort of who's been carrying on the team, like say someone like Rizwan, he plays all through the year and gets injured last minute, then so it's kind of like I think teams will be also trying their bench strength. Yeah, and that is pretty much what Pakistan did.
Yeah, and we should also on the bowling side, Mohamed Nawaz and Kadir were the 2 guys who I think led the way on the economy rates and also probably wickets as well.
Yeah, so I mean, Kadir, obviously, he's Pakistan's first choice leg spinner would probably be Shadab, but he's injured. So Kadir got a go in last, obviously, tour of New Zealand as well. So he took some wickets, but then this game they played Zahid Mahmood, who was also a leg spinner, and he took a 3-for. So it would be interesting, Mohammad Nawaz is an all-rounder, so he's I guess he's someone who's even all-rounder, bat or ball. So, but his batting hasn't come as good as you expect. But I mean, bowling-wise, he bowls a new ball. So I don't think he bowled 4 overs. He bowled 2 overs in one game, and they're sort of using him in a shorter spells. But he bowls in top 6, in the circle, first top 6 overs. And he does a good job there. So it's Imad Wasim is the other guy who used to do that for Pakistan, the left arm sort of spin, but more like darts, So I think Nawaz is sort of someone similar. I guess that's for replacement for Wasim. So I don't know how long he's away for. But again, that's another guy who probably will come back into Pakistan team soon.
Yep.
It's quite interesting. I was sort of like the New Zealand selection for. I'm jumping well ahead here, but just because we are talking about squad selection, we won't talk about players themselves. But the Black Cap selectors have made liar of me because they've gone back to sort of their tried and tested players versus players that are in form. But as I said, we'll talk about that a bit later in the show when we can go over the squad and see who's going to be there against the Australians. So I'm sort of thinking we'll take a little bit of a step back now that we've covered off that South Africa-Pakistan series. Just have a look at that the Super Smash finals there, which got played on the weekend. And I think the surprise game was a little bit, one game was predictable, where the result was sort of what we expected, there was a chance that it might not have eventuated. But the other game was quite unexpected for my mind. Anyway, it was the women's game, the Magicians versus the Blaze, where the Blaze got tipped over. And the Blaze with Sophie Devine in the squad going along quite nicely. Got tipped up with quite some sensational moments in the game for both teams.
Well, look, first, before we even get that far, I mean, the Canterbury Magicians finished top of the table, first seeds, but purely because of TV scheduling, have to play the game away at Wellington because the camera's in the same place for both games. So you've got to say well done to the Canterbury Magicians for having to play away when they've earned home advantage. It was a bit of a shame, but hey, they stood up, which was good. And as you say, what a fight back! The top three batsmen for the Blaze went really well. Devine, Green, and Kerr, who have all been batting well. To be honest, I remember I was up at not the elimination final, so the last game of the round with when Wellington took on Auckland, and I said, "Oh look, they've got Devine out cheaply. That's good." And they're like, "Yeah, but they bat down to 7 as in serious batsmen. They're the deepest batting lineup, I think, in women's cricket at the moment over in New Zealand." But those you're right. Those top three were going really well, and they had themselves, and it wasn't really. But you got to say, I mean, I'll get a screenshot of the warm up, and you can see how far ahead the Blaze were.
How the worm turned.
We came back. How the worm turned. Yes.
How the...
just bring that up.
Yeah. No, that's not the worm that scares myself.
Yeah, in the last 6 overs, obviously, they scored 60 runs. I think 66 runs. So
Canterbury did.
The Magicians, So, and they were 6 down. I think 5 of their top 7 didn't score more than 3 runs. So,
Yep.
Oh, so I think from that situation...
While Paul's digging up the worms, it's just like, it was that Amelia Kerr picked up a hat trick at the top of the Canterbury innings. So it's just like that game was, it was almost pretty much done and dusted midway through the Canterbury innings, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess like they kind of played a little bit as well, though, Canterbury Magicians, in a way that Emma Kent, she's not a regular. She's in and out, so they kind of put her up. And so did Missy Banks. She probably bats a bit lower than she does. So I think they kind of shuffled their batting order a little bit. So, but I mean, obviously it didn't help. But I think Kerr got a hat trick. But they still had obviously Tahuhu there who can hit a ball, and our own Kate Ibrahim, sort of, obviously he's with Taz, so he uses that nice. So kind of thing. Keep an eye on her. So she's been consistent. And obviously finished the job for Canterbury.
What's the I mean, like, we look at Tahuhu, and I mean, although she can hit a ball, not really a sort of what we would consider someone you'd rely on to actually score big runs, though. What is it? I mean, like, not someone that you are looking for at the back end of things. It's like, Linda's going to go out there and smack us some runs.
Yeah, I think it's probably you get quick runs off her. You get some quick runs off her, and that's probably what they were sort of holding her back for. And then Amelia Kerr obviously bowled a few overs earlier. Yeah. So I think they kind of strategically, it kind of worked out well.
Yeah, you got the Sky Tower there in the 10th over, haven't you? Where she picked up her hat trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the worm that shows you that Canterbury were ahead and were held back. I've also got the Manhattan. Oops, sorry, I was hovering in the wrong place there. Sorry, when I took my screenshot. But that's exactly what you were talking about there, Taz, in that those really high red bars. Oops, my daughter's blown open. Really high red bars towards the end there but all these yellow ones much lower as after the as Gone Blank Wellington were restricted in the lateral part of their innings.
Yeah, it's like a contrast. Yeah. It's a contrast. If you look at obviously, it's opposite day. First 10 overs, Wellington, or first 12 overs, Wellington were scoring big, and then last 8 they didn't, and vice versa for Canterbury. They didn't start as well, but they kind of pushed towards the end. So
I've also got the scorecards as well. If you want to have a quick look, that's the. Actually, I'll try and make them into.
But that's I mean, like, you know, one of the things they talked about with the way that Wellington dominated the early part of the season was the fact that their lower order wasn't necessarily getting a hit out, you know, in the game. And we know, having played the game, even for me at a lower level, if you're not getting out there and actually in the middle playing, it's really hard to just come out all of a sudden and start playing your game. Batting in the nets, practicing in the nets is nowhere near the same as out there and facing bowlers in a proper game situation.
yeah, I guess like if you remember, I know it's not a comparison, but if you remember Men's World Cup in England and India sort of top order scored throughout the obviously World Cup, and in the semi-final against New Zealand, like, you know, I mean, Matt Henry took few early wickets, and all of a sudden middle order, who was hardly getting 5-10 overs towards the end, were like in it in first 10 overs, you know. And and you're right, because they didn't obviously get to bat, like same with Wellington plays, sort of the lower order didn't get to bat at all, or, you know, hardly get to bat in the sort of pool games, and all of a sudden they kind of you know, they're exposed, you know. So sort of I agree where you're coming from. Like if the top order is consistently scoring runs and lower order not getting a go in the semi-final or final big games, and if, you know, sort of you have to rely on the lower order, the lack of practice doesn't help, you know, or lack of match time.
Yeah, open wicket practices only take you so far.
has been chipping in with these sort of performances during the season, to be fair, where she picked up 3 wickets in this one. A bit surprised that they waited so long before she bowled. And she was the last bowler out of what, they got 7 bowlers there. Strathwaite ends up being the last one, picking up 3 wickets off her 4. And she comes in. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, it is a rather strange situation. I mean, like the fact that she's come in and bowled her, she's the last bowler on, and the most economical bowler that really strangled that lower order innings, picking up 3 wickets as well.
Yeah, I guess like Frankie Mackay also sort of didn't go for a lot of runs. So both are spinners, off spinners, finger spinners.
Yep.
So I guess like they kind of figured out, once Frankie bowled, they figured out that, like, you know, obviously it's going to help bowling spinners. So, but they've tried all other bowlers before the captain brought herself on.
Look, I mean, I'm gonna be controversial, but, you know, damn the torpedoes. Here we go. It's just like, one of the problems with women's cricket is that and this is actually men's cricket as well, slower deliveries are actually quite hard to hit. So the slower the bowler, you have to make your own pace, and it brings in and introduces an element of risk in your shot making when you're trying to create the power to hit the ball to the boundary and over the boundary. So the slower the bowler that comes in, the more, you know, the more risk the batsman has to take. So if you can get a very slow bowler to then bowl a very good line and length, that's actually a good combination for a bowling side.
Yeah, I guess so, and it also depends on the pace of the pitch as well. So if it is a slow track, a slow bowler makes it harder. You probably have to go square, like, you know, with more power, more sort of like, you know, cow corner, or hitting a bowler back, like hitting over the head of the bowler to a slow bowler on a slow deck is definitely harder. And obviously slow deck, which is gripping as well. So I agree that, like, sort of, I think they've kind of figured out what the pace would be, and that's why sort of, I think Amelia Kerr obviously were bowled early on as well for Wellington, and obviously took the hat trick and then tried to push the Canterbury girls back.
So yeah, as you say, only 3 batsmen got into double figures for the
for top 7,
which is quite amazing, isn't it? You either got out for nothing, or you scored a decent T20 innings.
Yeah.
And one Ibrahim getting 45, Tez?
Yeah.
Not out.
Not out.
Not out.
Not out. Exactly. What's she bat with? Just remind me. I can't remember. What's she using?
She uses a Taz Marco bat.
Right. I suppose we'll move on to the men's game as Paul disappears and we have the scoreboard left in there. Just moving on to the men's game. Were we surprised by the result there? I mean, Wellington has just been probably even more dominant than their women's side in the Super Smash. It really wasn't a surprise the way that they rolled through to victory, was it?
Yeah, I mean, like Wellington, probably if anything, Canterbury had a better chance chasing against Wellington. Because Wellington, like, with someone like, obviously you've got Phil Allen, who is a free scoring player, but then you've got Conway, who's been, in brilliant form for the last couple of years. And he's someone who can bat through the innings. So I guess like they've just got the right mix,
Absolutely.
With Canterbury, obviously, they've got seasoned players like McConaughey and Mitchell and like these guys, but they haven't been as consistent as what you can call someone like Conway, who's been sort of consistently scoring runs in T20s. And in a chase, you need Conway to bat through, and he did. And I was, sort of a comfortable win in the end not comfortable, they chased in the last over, but they looked in control throughout the game.
Yeah, exactly. Looked in control and managed it through. I mean, it's funny because it's like, it's a T20. Taking it through to the last over doesn't mean that it wasn't comfortable, does it? Because you manage it to reduce the risk.
Sure, but I mean, 2 balls to spare. I mean, there's not much margin for error there.
Yeah, but it depends on how. So what do you need? What do you need off that last 2 balls? The last 3 balls. You're getting a single, whatever. So that's that different as opposed to 2 balls left and you need 6, so you got to whack 1 over the boundary. That's that different sort of thing there. Sort of and I sort of think if you have to get say 5 or 6 runs off that last over, that's actually quite comfortable. Especially with wickets in hand in particular and a set batsman.
Okay, to be fair, yes, they got 8 runs off that last over to win it.
There we go. Yeah, that's sort of a little bit tight. I mean, like
I
in
think
terms
with
of
Conway there, like it was like if there was a set batsman there, you always have a chance, sort of to win the game from there. So
yeah. I mean, I was just going to say with that Wellington side. I mean, you look at the top and the way that obviously Finn Allen has been probably the find for the Super Smash. And then you've got the way that Devon Conway performed. So you got 2 guys top of the order that are basically performing. Then you got a Blundell that sort of like he didn't always perform, but he was consistent and he brings it around. But more, I'm looking at further down the Wellington lineup, and you got a Bracewell coming in, who if things have not quite gone how they wanted to plan, he's a very stable player that will sort of bat through that innings or take it, manage that situation quite well as the captain as well.
Yeah, and Jimmy Neesham as well. So I think they've got the right mix. I mean, if they get a good, half decent start, and you would probably expect Conway to be there after 10 overs, as usually he is. So, or if Phil Allen goes well, he's like 50 of 20 balls, or 60 of 30 balls. So,
yep. Oh, there's the Manhattan.
Yep, there's Manhattan. You see, big innings. No, big over towards the end there for Canterbury. Looking at you're saying they had it in control, but it was a very similar innings. Looking at the scoring,
very similar.
Maybe not the fall of wickets, but the
that's what I was going to say. I mean, like you look at the Wellington innings, and so apart from maybe the second wicket, the rest of them are sort of like good partnerships that have and you haven't had a bang situation where you've lost 2 wickets, your 2 set batsmen. So you've lost 1 batsman, new guy comes in, but at the other end is still someone that's obviously, with Devon Conway obviously batting through, is there and set and able to just make sure that he manages the situation well again.
Yep.
I think like with Conway, obviously he faced 63 balls, so pretty much he faced 10.3 overs, right, out of 19.4. So he was there, and that probably sort of, he's at one end and he's facing half the balls or more than half the balls. It's, you always have a chance to chase any total.
Especially when you're going at the rate that he was going at. So it was, and then obviously again, he's got he's pacing it If he needs to accelerate it, he can accelerate it. If he can say, "Hey, look, we just need to settle. We've lost a wicket. We don't need to lose two." He can make sure that he manages that whole thing all the way through. I like Simon's comment there though about Wellington joining the Big Bash. It'd be interesting to see, how that go if we went in lockdown, if there was a quarantining for 2 weeks, if we could fly back and forth across the Tasman.
Yeah.
One for the future maybe. But Mitchell there, 1 over for four runs, only gets 1 over, and he's had a very good over. Some poor captaincy, or did he get injured?
So I think McConaughey obviously is a captain, and he's a batsman who bowls, and probably bowled maybe one too many, like 4 overs. Generally, he goes for less runs, but he's kind of a bowler who would, if a wicket falls, he can sneak in a couple of overs for, because he's short run up, just bowls quick. So I think they probably missed the trick there. But I mean, he obviously got Finn Allen out early, so he's got a wicket. But if you have regulars like Mitchell, unless he's injured, I'm not too sure, or he wasn't fit to bowl. I'm surprised that McConaughey bowled 4. Especially with the amount of runs he went for.
That's one of the ones that jumped out at me. You didn't have the same. Bracewell clearly came in as the last change bowler just to fill out because they didn't want a young husband, or just to manage the rotation of who was bowling at which end. So you can understand it in Canterbury's case, but in Wellington's case, but in Canterbury's case, it seems strange that the Mitchell there comes in, your 4th bowler, only bowls 1 over, and that over's been a good over as well.
Well, you also got to factor in he's a black cap.
Yeah.
He's a black cap that the black caps use him for death bowling too. He's So that is an interesting call.
He might be injured. I'm not too sure if there's an injury or something, or he might not be fit to bowl, or he's done something during the game. But I'm surprised if he was fit and only bowled 1 over.
Yeah, it was one of those things that jumped out when I was doing the morning sports briefing. Don't forget, folks, you can join me at 7 a.m. every single morning for the morning sports briefing. Your best way to start the day, up to with all of the important sports news.
Nice plug. Well done. I'm just trying to Google, see if I can come up with anything that tells us whether he's injured or not, because I don't remember seeing his name in the squad for the T20 series against Australia either.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he did pick up an injury. Anywho, I suppose so. Yeah. Congratulations to the Magicians, and congratulations to the Firebirds on their Super Smash titles. The Magicians able to halt the progress of the Blaze there, looking for their 4th championship in succession, and the Firebirds actually picking up back-to-back titles. So they'll be happy to carry that on, and
there are 2 Aucklanders playing for the Firebirds, though.
Yes,
Finn Allen and obviously Nisham as well. So.
Exactly. Good. And I was sort of thinking maybe we can do the whole Jamison, Kerry Jamison thing, and Kyle Jamison, Kyle Jamison thing, and Finn Allen's back in Auckland next year.
Yeah, you never know.
Yes. Well,
since you touched on it, I've just brought up the T20 Black Cap squad for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so Williamson, obviously, fair enough, and Bennett, Bolt, Chapman, Conway, Guptill, pending fitness test, Jameson, Neesham, Phillips, Santner, Seifert, Soddy, and Southey.
Yes, and Finn Allen is actually the next name on the list if Martin Guptill's not fit. So if Martin Guptill does fail his fitness test, which, I think he's probably 50-50, to be honest, because he came back, he was injured before when he came back for Auckland, so he didn't play for Auckland in the Super Smash for the first couple of games. Then he played rather unsuccessfully, and then he's picked up another injury. So I don't think that Martin Guptill's 100. So there's probably a quite high chance of Finn Allen sort of getting an international cap.
That would be great. That's a good reward for, he's been consistent as well, like throughout the Super Smash. So, obviously, you want Guptill to be fit. If it's not, then hopefully, Finn gets a go and actually gets to play as well. So.
Yep.
Any other names there you think that anyone there that shouldn't be there, or anyone that you think is unlucky to miss out?
Well, as I mentioned before, it's an interesting. It's a tried and tested selection rather than a form selection, and those aren't my words, but I'd be thinking the same thing once I read the names there. When we look at the likes of the Glenn Phillips and Glenn Phillips and hang on, there's a name missing there. Oh, Mark Chapman, sorry. Glenn Phillips and Mark Chapman's there. They haven't exactly lit up the Super Smash. Mark Chapman coming back from injury. In saying that, Mark Chapman, when he did come back from injury, did perform quite well. But Glenn Phillips, he didn't really get a lot. It wasn't consistent. So you're probably looking there. Probably maybe they've gone with names that have performed well in the Black Caps, as opposed to guys that are in form at the moment. Kyle Jamieson, he although Auckland didn't go well, the Aces didn't go well, he's a name, he still performed well in a team that wasn't doing too well. So not surprised to see him. And then the rest of them sort of really standard names that we've sort of come accustomed to for our T20 squad. Would be fair to say, Taz?
Yeah, I was with Hamish Bennett, obviously they're positioning with him for some reason which I don't know, because I think he's 36 or 35. He'll be touching, he's mid-30s for sure. And but he's doing, obviously Wellington is doing well, but he has been leaking runs when he did play for Black Caps. So I think for me, with Bolt and Tim Southey there, would you bring a young guy or younger guy who could sort of get more sort of experience? But I'm not sure. I think they probably want to carry on with Hamish, which is obviously consistency in selection.
Yeah, he's 34 in a couple of days.
Sorry, at this point with the T20 World Cup not far away. I mean, this year, surely you're looking at consolidating and considering your team not trying to blood new players at this point. It's a bit late in the day, isn't it, for that, for a T20 with the T20 World Cup so close?
Yes, I mean it's the form as well. So I mean Hamish is not in top 10 wicket takers either in Super Smash. So it's a combination. What I'm trying to say is if he was a young player, you carry on investing with him, But I think they've got guys like Jimmy Neesham or Kyle Jamieson who would bowl, who would bowl fair bit. Jamieson probably should bowl quarter of his overs, and Jimmy Neesham, he can fill in for a fast bowler. So looking at the mix, you can probably, I think that's if I was to sort of raise a point, that's probably Hamish Bennett, which I would think that, just a small question mark, not a big one, a small one, because they want that, they just want that sort of, obviously.
Now go on, back yourself, Taz. Back yourself. It's a big question mark.
It's the leadership as well, though, because he's been quite a successful leader for Wellington, and sort of the last couple of years, and he was captain on and off. So I think that's the element he brings in as well, which obviously we don't see on stats.
But I actually think that cricket is slightly different to most other sports in the fact that although you've got the T20 coming up very shortly, you have got that opportunity to try somebody because. I mean, you look at a lot of the like Pakistan at the moment, obviously trying names out there, and the like, and I think even India when they were in Australia, they actually were going through a few players. Australia would have had very different names coming to New Zealand if they hadn't have cancelled the tour to South Africa. So I think it's actually quite T20 cricket is that opportunity to try things out, and. I think Hamish Bennett, look, he actually got a bit of tap in that West Indies series, to be fair, as well. So, yeah, his experience in that. But look, we're playing in country. You can easily bring him into camp to be if you think that there's value in having him there to mentor any bowlers or whatever. Then I think that there's value in bringing him into it. But I think there's a missed opportunity to give somebody another shot, especially against someone like Australia before you go to a T20 World Cup, because it's that you're going to get tested against Australia.
Tickner from CD obviously was the top wicket taker of the Super Smash for men's, anyways, and he's someone who has played on and off for Black Caps, so a couple of games here and there. So I think that's the other option you've got. But he's in form, he's taken wickets. But as I said, like they've been quite consistent with Hamish, so they probably want to carry on until at least the World Cup. And fair
It's
play,
interesting.
like,
Yeah, you mentioned Tickner. It's actually, I mean, with the success, I mean, he's sort of in the realms of Kyle Jamieson in terms of height. And, the interesting thing with Kyle Jamieson is, got to remember, you go back to under 19s and a little bit earlier, he was an opening batter. He wasn't a bowler. He was a part-time bowler. They've turned him into a bowler. So if they've been able to do that with Kyle Jamieson, and Tickner's obviously a bowler, he's a good bowler. He's a successful bowler. But if we can get the same sort of bounce, because that's what Kyle Jamieson gets, it's that full pitch delivery that bounces up. If you can get someone like Tickner to deliver like Kyle Jamieson, that's a pretty good bowling. That's a scary bowling lineup, then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean Tickner is probably at least a yard quicker, so he would bowl 140, 145 on a good day. So he's obviously a lot quicker than Kyle Jamieson, not as consistent and not as sort of accurate. And I think that's where sort of they probably didn't pick him. But as I said, on form, you probably would pick him. Like you've picked Finn Allen on form, so Tickner probably deserved as well. But I guess you can only pick, a squad of 14 or 15 or 12, so he missed out.
And speaking of players on form or not on form, so then the likes of a Glenn Phillips, you're trusting him on his previous record in the Black Caps versus what he's achieved for the Aces.
Yeah, the thing is with Phillips, he's actually played overseas a lot as well. So it's the understanding of the sort of the T20 game, where he's played in Caribbean League and quite successfully as well against different bowlers. So he probably would have played more international bowlers than sort of a domestic New Zealand player, so to speak. Or so if he's, I don't know who he would have picked ahead of. I hope not Ross Taylor, but it's I think he did well against West Indies, but I think overall his experience playing different conditions probably goes in his favor.
Yep.
And also we've got the women's, the White Ferns one as well. I think we've obviously had a long chat about the men's selection. The White Fern side of things, heavily loaded with players who are in that final. With one, two, three, four, five, 6 players from Wellington, a couple, 3 from Canterbury, just a couple from Otago, a couple from Central Districts, no one from Auckland in there, or from Northern Districts either. So yeah, the top of the North Island entirely ignored.
I think that, look, what that actually, I know there's been the sort of comments with the little kid from Parnell and what he said in terms of with Sophie Devine's innings and the like. But what that highlights also is the fact that the top players in women's cricket are very good, very, very good. But it doesn't take long before you actually get to people that are questionable whether they're actually at a first-class level. They're making up numbers, sadly, at the moment. And sort of, you've got a set bunch of players, and that's what are going to be. There's not a lot of competition at the moment for positions in the White Fern squad.
Well, there's one way of looking at it, because I think they announced that one-day squad before they announced the T20 squad. So the one-day squad, there was obviously a bit slightly different. So Maddie Green, although captaining Wellington now, but she's from Auckland as well. So she used to play for Auckland, and I think opening bowler from Auckland. I'm surprised her name is not here. She's been quite consistent, and she's been pretty good. I'm not sure. I think Lauren Down, she's playing in the side. I mean, she's playing probably in the one days. So I think, I'm surprised that no Auckland players, because Auckland and Indy are not the weakest teams, in the women's comp.
You made it through to a semi-final or the elimination final, and yeah.
So so for the looking at the one day squad rather than the T20 squad, Yeah, you got Fran Jonas there from Auckland. Has been
Yeah,
included.
she's a debutante.
Yep, the 16-year-old spin bowler.
Mm.
Haley, and then also Brooke Halliday from Northern Districts, another debutante as well. So yeah, you say perhaps experimenting or bringing the girls through on the one-day side rather than through the T20 side. I don't know if that gives indication as to the level of importance of the two formats, and whether one format is whether they want to bring them through at a different way. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've lost you there.
That's about it, really.
Yeah. So I think Frankie Mackay playing after a couple of years, or maybe 2 or 3 years, she's back in the squad. So I guess looking at the consistency of squad, so there are a few new faces from last, like when the obviously White Ferns played last. But it's yeah, you're right. They probably introduced new younger players in this one-day team rather than T20. So I guess with the World Cup, I think later. T20 World Cup, Women's T20 World Cup. Maybe, I don't know, they're preparing for that, and that's how they're kind of mixing and matching the teams.
Yep, yeah. If that's the next World Cup to come up as a T20 one, then it makes sense, doesn't it, to bring players through the one day, use that as a way to bring players in whilst you're building the squad on the T20 side. Again, the money in the women's game is different to the men's game. Let's be honest. So it's less professional, and hence you're not going to have the same depth. If you can't have as many players, as many people being full-time professionals, amateurs against professionals, it's always going to find it harder. Just need to stay on the training time.
That's absolutely. I mean, we've seen that in other sports as well.
Yeah, I mean, we see a similar thing in the 90% Cup. We've seen some 18 young girls come through as well. Yeah.
But to be honest, like in 5-6 years, it has come a long way, though. Like the power in women's, like, you know, the girls hitting sixes and big sixes, you know, it wasn't like that consistent, like maybe 5-6 years ago. But I personally think there's more sort of big hitters now in women's
big hitters now.
And it's and I guess like they're like, I think New Zealand's got 5 full-time professional women cricketers, and I guess like slowly we're catching up with likes of Australia and England, where they get the yearly contracts. So hopefully we'll have a few more.
And products like Taz, Markor bats are helping.
Not sure about that.
As you say, yeah. I mean, how many professional cricketers, full-time professional men cricketers are there? If you say there's only 5 full-time women's cricketers now, obviously cricketers who are younger players who are coming through studying and stuff will pretty much be full-time, even if they're not getting paid full-time. So, but yeah, that.
Do you think like one comment that Aaron's made in the chat rooms is around is a lack of pathway through? Like, you got a 16-year-old that's now going to be playing international cricket. Amelia Kerr was very similar, and now is this like there isn't that pathway coming through in age grade teams for their competitions, and that could help to actually build numbers and get skill levels up. One thing we've just seen, I mean, like, this is a junior level cricket as well, is that when players play against players that are as good as them or better than them, they watch and they improve. So if they could actually have more age grade competition, that means that they're going to be pitted against players of equal ability at an earlier age, and it's going to actually lead to the improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at grassroots level in New Zealand for about, over a decade. And, in terms of the numbers, I mean, the women, obviously, cricket doesn't have the numbers like as we do in men's cricket. If one thing I would suggest we could do is probably organize more school cricket for the girls.
And, absolutely.
That sort of builds up and all the way to up. Because at the moment, as I said, like, there's not enough cricket played to have a clear pathway at junior level. But if there is because we organize primary school cricket tournaments, and then it goes on to the sort of intermediates and the high school. But the high school cricket, women's or girls cricket, is not, hardly exist,
Now, because again, what they need to do is to really promote at primary school level. That's what they need to do to get the numbers. You just got to it's a numbers game, right? You got to get the numbers game, because we know that there's athletic girls out there, but they're just not playing cricket. So
Yeah.
you got to get the in there, and if you can have, instead of one team, like I know I just got an email from my son and daughter's school. There's a tournament coming up. Just a local tournament coming up. We'll get one girls team last year out of the school. So it's like we should aim to get two girls teams out of it, or three girls teams out of it, and that's how you'll get those numbers, and then you'll start to be able to get the numbers coming through. I think your daughter's putting her hand up to play, eh?
I thought it was Woodall. I'll show you which one. Well, look, guys, so you guys won't be aware of because I've just signed up my girls up this weekend. But the hat tip to Northern Districts, they have got in Natia. They've over the next 5 weeks for $10 you can sign your daughter up for a girls' cricket program for one session a week. That's 5 sessions for $10, $2 a session. That's fantastic.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It's a no-brainer.
I mean, like, look, to be honest with you though, Paul, I mean, like, you'll go into areas like they can $10 nothing, right? But I'll stereotype. What the hell? I've been doing it all show. You go into South Auckland, $10 is going to be a big ask. So just do it for free. Do it for free.
I mean, at QMU, I think at QMU, I started the program and Taryn followed up with it. We had when we started, there was one primary school team participating in Auckland Comp, and then in 3 years' time, we had at one stage we had 24, 22 girls teams playing in year 5, year 6, and year 7, year 8 tournaments. So I think, and we did all the sessions for free. So we went to the school, during the school time, and organized a tournament during the school time as well. And the better players, we offered them free membership of the club. So so that's how we sort of tried to recruit,
Yeah.
And they were like, I give you an example. West Harbour, probably not known for cricket, like West Harbour School, and but the kids were keen. So I think the last year I was doing the tournament, their girls won the tournament. So I guess like it took them a couple of years to figure out, and then they were onto it. So I think there has to be more opportunities for the girls at primary school level to play cricket, and that would probably help.
It's no point. It's no point trying to convince them at that high school level because they've already started to. Whatever's happened that's what their focus has become. To try and convert them at a high school age is quite difficult. You start at primary school, like Paul's with his two girls, and that will actually flow on and flow through.
But you are right. I'll show you. To Taz's point there, this is an after-school program, so it's going to require a parent to turn up, pick up their child, take them along. It's 4 till 5, so it's during work hours as well. So yeah, there are a number of boundaries. By doing it, as you say, I mean, hey, it's farming country, so it might be a bit different for work hours for farmers. But they're up at like the break of dawn to bring the cows into milk. They work early, finish early, kind of thing. But you're right. Yeah, by doing it in school hours in the school, you're just reducing those boundaries, those barriers to entry. So hence we get more people in. Yeah.
Suppose we better move along because we're running out of time. We only got 10 minutes to talk about West Indies, Bangladesh, and then we've got to get on to India and England. Another fantastic. Oh, should we just move on to England and India? Because it's, to be honest, after the series Australia India, and geez, we're having some awesome Test cricket though, aren't we? It's great. It's great viewing. It's enthralling.
Well, no, but come on. We all know that Test cricket in India is basically a dust bowl where the batsmen make hay in the first 4 days, and then the spinners get a chance in the last day to maybe get some wickets and hopefully avoid a draw. Isn't that how Test cricket happens in India all the time?
Well, not this time.
No, look, I mean, they have changed it. They have changed it, obviously, last 10, 12 years when they figured out that teams started making seaming tracks for India overseas. So they started making spinning tracks for themselves, So I guess like in India, the big factor is the toss, and which I think is unfair. I personally think, and I think there was in England county cricket, they were about to start, or they might have did it last year, was the visiting team chooses if they want to bat or field first. And that sort of evens up I mean, in this case, like, in India, these conditions, whoever wins the toss probably, first day they score runs and then rest of the next 4 days, wickets, So it's kind of like in England batted first in the first game and obviously won the game. India batted first in this one and looks like they will win this game. So it's, I think it's a bit, I don't know, I'm not saying it's unfair, but it's kind of like, I think they should start doing that, where like the visiting team chooses to bat or field, you know.
But no,
To be fair,
you don't want to know. You don't want to know the result of the game before the first ball has been balled, just purely off the toss.
Yeah.
but to be fair, I watched some of the cricket last night, just before the tee and then after tee, and apart from Ben Stokes, there was a lot of bad shot making from the English batsmen, top order. They actually sweep shots, top edges going, which is how they got out. Ben Stokes is the only one that I saw that got a feature delivery from Ashwin. To and hit his stumps sort of thing, but the rest of them were actually poor shot to selection.
Yeah, I guess like we can say that, but if you see how many times Rohit Sharma played the sweep shot, he was playing that consistently as well, but he wasn't top edging it, But I think there's a way to play in different conditions, and in that sort of on that sort of wicket, if you get to the pitch of the ball, sweep is probably a better option, if you could, And with obviously Rohit Sharma being an Indian and played a lot more there, so was more comfortable and sort of his execution was better. But if you're defending on that sort of a track and get out bat and pad, that's probably you'll be gutted with yourself. So I think it's not the England batsmen. It's probably they would have made a plan how to approach the bowlers, and they're probably gone with it.
What I also take from that, there's an element of what you're saying is that you're going to get out bat pad eventually, so you might as well try and make some runs while you're there.
Now,
sorry, you carry on, Paul.
No, sorry, Matt. Perhaps a different route. Let Ashwin answer Ashwin's question, then I'll talk about the pitch again. So
it's Ashwin, what I think is like when you go for a sweep shot, the bowler has to change his length.
Yep.
And that's where you can, sort of. I think sweep shot is not. I don't think it's a scoring shot. It's more like sort of changing. The batsman, sort of, sort of their plan of attack. And what a sweep shot does is like you kind of try to change your line, you go wider, or you kind of. So I think you're less threatening that way if you're sort of trying to change your lines just because there could be a sweep shot as an option.
Yep, and if they're having to change their length, they're going to have to go fuller, which means you can actually get to the pitch of the ball better.
Get to the ball, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Woohoo! I got something right. Maybe I do know something about the game.
So Arun says, look, he makes a point that spinners make hay from ball one in India. He then says, look, to be honest, New Zealand have green seamers, so no different to India as far as pitch preparation goes. To a certain degree, I'd agree. But do you really want? I mean, Ashwin was opening the bowling in the second innings as a spin bowler. Do you really want to have a pitch that's so one-sided that you're opening with a spinner? Surely you should at least have 3 or 4 overs of, or sort of 6 to 8 overs of pace bowl, of some sort of form of pace bowl before you immediately get.
I guess it's the couple. I mean, just off topic. I actually opened the bowling for QMU bowling off spin last weekend. So.
is that 20 or is that one day? I mean, it's a
2-day game. It's a 2-day game.
Oh, 2-day game. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so
yeah. And it was turning from ball one as well. So, so
that was the skill of the bowler.
Yeah, I think just to answer your question.
So hang on. But you know they've got you and they've got Turan, so you've been doctoring the pictures.
No, it was a away game, so. So just to answer your question, I think bowling. Let's don't worry about spin or fast bowlers, right? Let's say how many bowlers you play. So you play 4 or 5 bowlers. Sometimes you play 4 bowlers, like 4 or 5 with an all-rounder. So back in 70s, when India played 4 spin bowlers on the same pitch, West Indies played 4 fast bowlers and 5 fast bowlers. Because there was no time issue like we have now, like over 8 and stuff. So I guess if your bowlers are skilled enough if your fast bowlers are skilled enough, and unfortunately, when people say sort of Indian wicket and their spinners taking wickets, they think that they have to play that. If your spinners are good enough, because Indian spinners bowl they would have bowled way more overs than English spinners, because English spinners obviously don't get to bowl as many overs in England. So I guess they will be. You would say they will be consistent. they would be bowling less bad balls than English spinners, right? So
More
I was
miles on the
surprised that
clock.
Ben Stokes didn't bowl. I was surprised that Ben Stokes didn't bowl because
Mm.
it's kind of a round arm action. He would get reverse swing on a pitch like that. So I guess England missed the trick where either because Joe Root has bowled same amount of overs as opening bowler. That's his name. 500 Test wickets.
James
Broad.
Anderson. Broad.
No. Broad.
Broad.
In this innings, right? So they both
Yep.
have bowled 11 until I saw it last, right? So I guess if you think that you need to be spin heavy, then play another spinner. But spin bowling starting the inning is he has to be skillful, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's more like horses for courses. Like, if you've got a track, you're playing 5 bowlers, you're using 5 bowlers, But England is playing 5 bowlers, and they're not using 5 bowlers, in that way. So
Joe Root has now bowled 2 more overs than Stuart Broad. Joe Root's bowled 4 and Stuart Broad bowled 2.
in the second.
And Stuart Broad
no,
was the 2, 3, 4, 5th bowler to bowl.
That's the second.
The order. Second innings, second innings.
Yeah,
you're talking first innings, sorry.
The first innings they both bowled 11 overs. Yep.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
But Joe Root was the 6th bowler bowling 11 overs.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess as I said before, when West Indies toured, wherever they toured, they had trust in their fast bowlers, and they just played. India played 4 spinners, they played 4 fast bowlers, but they still got them all out. So I guess it really depends how you say it.
Don't blame the track. A bad workman blames his tools, kind of thing. Is what you're doing with this. But, yeah, not a matter of.
I completely understand where they're coming from. That's why I'm saying if that's the case, then say in England, they use Duke's ball, which obviously swings way more, and they use obviously sometimes seaming tracks, which Indian or Pakistani subcontinent guys are not used to. So it's a foreign land for them as well, like it is for England right now. So because the thing is, there was a tweet from Monty Panesar, and he said it's probably harder to face 140 or someone. It was Ashwin said that.
Ashwin said it.
If you're facing 145 balls seaming round and then 90 sort of 90k ball sort of spinning, what would you rather face? So it's a fair point,
Yeah, and as Aaron points out, Sharma actually took the first wicket, English wicket, and Siraj came back and took Ollie Pope's wicket. When they looked quite settled there for a while. He was very settled actually when Siraj came along and Pant got one of his ripper catches. That was a great catch down the leg side. I thought he dropped it for a second, but he popped out and he claimed it again. So yeah. Hey, I actually there's a moment I want to talk about from that game. It was an officiating moment, which didn't actually end up costing England in the end, but so you might know what. There's Ajinkya Rahane, and so they appealed for caught at the wicket. Obviously given not out. England reviews, and the TMO, for want of the DRS review official, doesn't even look at what they're actually appealing about. It looks at everything but what they're appealing about. Is that poor officiating? I mean, obviously there was comments around the umpiring. The umpire wasn't at fault there. The umpire made the wrong call on field, but then the TMO process, he's got nothing to do with that, so it wasn't his fault. So that was just an absolute shocker. Rahane should have been given out off the TMOs. If he'd rolled the tape, just that 5 seconds more, he would have picked up that England are appealing for off the glove, not a bat pad, which was quite clearly missed the bat.
And there was another appeal yesterday on Rohit Sharma where his bat was right behind the pad. So it's a deliberate padding, right? So, they appealed, it was outside off, but they appealed of deliberate padding and ball going to get hit the stumps. It was hitting the stumps, but umpire thought he was actually playing a shot with bat behind the pad. So I guess they've been sort of, some bizarre sort of decisions by the umpires, but that's cricket, eh?
Well, I sort of think on-field's one thing, but when you start to get to off-field decisions being poorly made, that's because now you've got all the technology at your fingertips, and you're using technology to take any guesswork out of the decision making. Like in that scenario that I referred to, like Joe Root was clearly saying, you haven't looked at the right footage. You haven't looked at the right footage. And the umpire's going, oh, no, it's all good.
Yeah. Now I think that's, third umpire, there was even commentators were talking about it. So I don't know why the third umpire didn't sort of obviously go on and sort of had but yeah, here's Darren.
He's coming for the 8 o'clock start because didn't get the memo.
Oh, what?
You started. Yeah, sorry, Paul. You go.
Can we do it during the lunch break? And so he moved it forward to 7 o'clock to be in the lunch break.
Oh, okay. My apologies, because my phone. I stream my cricket off the phone, so my phone's been downstairs for the last hour.
Oh no! So you don't know that's lunch break.
Yeah, we deliberately went live during the lunch break for you, but it's great to have you on.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And no, we're just talking about the controversial moment yesterday with the DRS system with when Rahane was England appealed for off the glove, but they didn't actually look at that footage. What were you? What did you? What do you think? That was on was it day one? Was it?
Which one is it?
That was day one, yeah.
So basically, England's appealed for caught at the wicket, and it was given not out. The umpire's given not out on the fact that they thought he was saying it's a bat pad, and it was quite clearly didn't hit the bat. It went directly onto the pad, but then it's come off the pad and it's just touched his gloves and gone through to the leg side short fielder. And so it was given not out. So England went upstairs for it, and I keep calling him the TMO, but he's not called TMO in cricket, is he? But he's basically not rolled the footage. The third umpire, that's the third umpire. Thank you. Third umpire doesn't roll the footage long enough to see what England's actually gone to the review for.
Oh.
So it was just like, and luckily for them, it's like, well, Rahane got out very shortly after anyway. But that could have been a big moment in the game if that hadn't have happened, because it was quite clearly come off his gloves when they rolled the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another incident yesterday we were talking about earlier was, I think Rohit Sharma, sort of bat pad, he kept the bat behind the pads.
Oh, I saw that live.
Yeah, that's so third umpire can't sort of make a call that it's a deliberate padding.
Yeah.
No, he can't, so that's why he said not out.
Oh, is that the case that he can't the third umpire can't make a call on the fact that there was no shot played?
Yeah, it's the on-field umpire's call.
Wow.
So he thought he was playing a shot. So.
But I'm sorry, but that's something that's a flaw in the process, because quite fairly an umpire on field could sort of think, oh no, I think he was making a genuine attempt at a shot. But when you look at the review or the video replay, it's obvious that he wasn't. So I think that an on-field umpire can make that snap, because he's making a snap decision that it was a shot was played.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I think they want the human element in cricket, and they want to leave the field umpires to make those decisions. Otherwise, everything becomes. Then you may as well just leave everything.
How obvious?
Yeah, the thing is, if England knew that he's offering a shot, they wouldn't have reviewed it. So they've lost.
No. So they went upstairs.
Yep.
If you because I watched it live, so you could hear the stump mic conversation just for a split second. They chose to go upstairs straight away, and then while they're waiting for the thing to happen, Root actually asked the umpire, "Did he play a shot?" And the umpire's gone, "Yes," and he's just gone, "Oh no," and walked off.
Yeah.
So he basically burned the review.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they should be allowed to check. Was he playing a shot? If he goes, "Nah, it's not. I don't think it's hitting." Then you can go.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Just that slight adjustment of the process.
No shot offered or shot offered.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they need to be able to check was it shot offered or not, and then make their decision accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to let the umpires have their say on how they view it, but they need to be communicated that, I think.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? When will India declare, or what target is a good target? They're 365 runs ahead.
I think they'll just bat, won't they? They'll just let
They'll
it
just
get
bat.
more and more tired. They'll just,
Well-
it's only 4 more wickets, so it could all be over pretty quickly as soon as
Yeah,
you
that's
lose one.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
in saying that, some pretty good partnership currently between Kohli and Ashwin.
Yeah,
Both
after
on
that, though,
basically.
there's nothing there.
There's
There's
nothing there.
nothing
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So you get 1, you get 4, and you'll be batting soon anyway. So I think they're just, if you
I think-
saw the over
Yep.
before lunch, Kohli was warned for running on the pitch. So that's what they're going to do for the next little while.
Jeez. Okay. I think that they'll go to 400. If they get to 400, they'll declare. Because it's psychological, isn't it? You don't reckon?
They'll carry on.
Yeah, I think they'll just bat. They'll just
Bat,
bat
bat,
till they
bat.
get, because it just gets worse and worse, right? The pitch,
You've
Yep.
got 2
and
days.
they'll get tired, and there's a
Time is not an
long-term
issue.
benefit.
What's that, Paul?
They've got 5 days for
Yep,
the
they've got
next
2 more
test as
days
well.
left. Yep.
Yeah.
More days,
Plus they've got,
time isn't going to be an issue. You've got plenty of time, so there's no need to declare.
nah. The more you get them tired, it's probably better for them for the next test as well. Leach will bowl more overs. He'll be a bit more lethargic and all of that involved. So they'll just bat.
Very cool.
That's what I'd do anyway.
Yeah,
Especially if he's going to get close to 60, 70, then he'll look to get 100, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Got to get those stats up.
Oh, yeah. I was just listening to it now while I was waiting for my 8 o'clock start. The commentators were saying, they said like he's been under a bit of scrutiny that he hasn't scored any hundreds lately. For his last 10 tests, he's only been averaging 53.
Only.
Yeah. And I think the
But
English
100.
commentators like, oh, that's not a bad slump to be in.
Actually, since you mentioned the commentators, the Englishmen aside, I don't know who the commentators are from India, but geez, they're getting some calls wrong as commentators. I was just
What
watching
one?
this. Look, I can't remember specifically. I was watching it yesterday.
There's Ajit Agarkar, there's Murali Karthik, there's Lakshman Sivaramakrishnan, Sunil
They-
Gavaskar.
Yeah, I just
They're
when I was
all
listening
very
yesterday, and it was just
well
like,
travelled.
yeah, well, it just seemed yesterday because normally, I mean, like the English, the India games from India with the commentaries over there, they're really good, But yesterday, I was just thinking, that's not what happened. What are you looking at? So
You're missing
just happened a
Manjrekar
few
or
times.
something. You're missing Manjrekar. Indians hate him, eh?
Do they?
Yeah. Well, the ones I know don't like him as a commentator. So
I really enjoy him as a commentator. I really liked him as a kid, as a batter as well.
yeah.
Yep.
I loved his batting. Like, he was quite a composed player, but I think he's like Ramiz Raja of Pakistan. Like, like Ramiz Raja criticizes his players more than I think Manjrekar does the same, and maybe that's why he's not as liked.
Yeah.
Oh, Kohli's just brought up his 50.
Manjrekar has just been last year. I think he got into a bit of trouble where he called Ravindra Jadeja bits and pieces cricketer, and then BCCI sanctioned him. He couldn't then do some commentary or something. Yeah, it's
What did he
a
say?
bit communist, the whole thing.
What did he say?
I just
again?
said called him a bits and pieces bit part cricketer.
Oh, right.
Basically, calling pigeonholing a Indian national player, and it's something you'd expect from the Chinese government or Pakistani cricket board, and Indian board is now turning to the same. Oh, you can't say this about our team.
Yeah.
Sanctioning people for no reason.
Yeah.
No, hey, look, everybody's going to get outraged these days, so got to get sanctioned.
Yeah.
So what do we like? I think pretty much, India's game to win here, isn't it? It's be a miracle for England to pull this out of the fire.
Oh, I think possibly.
Well, if
Look,
Kohli's running up and down the pitch as well.
Or if Ashwin gets injured, then you can if one bowler is one of the Indians. If Ashwin gets injured, then you might have a chance. But it's
got a bit of a sore back at the moment.
Yeah. Not you though.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the gift that keeps giving. I'm actually waiting
Yeah.
for Rohit and Ashwin to bat together. Then I can take a screenshot. Then my cousin and I can send it to my cousin. Hey, so a game we sort of bypass. So we'll obviously get to have a chat about what happens in this game next week. But West Indies and Bangladesh, not a bad return for the West Indies and Bangladesh, considering they actually did have quite a lot of experienced players not in the squad there.
Yeah, I watched both the highlights for both the test matches.
Yep.
Especially, once almost retrospectively when you see the result, like, oh, I need to watch what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah. So you would have touched on last. Did you guys talk about the first test as well already?
No, we haven't talked about we because we spent so much time on Super Smash. We haven't actually made it round to the the Bangladesh West Indies game. So yeah. Tell us what you saw in the highlights. Both games.
I think the second test stands out more. I think it's two average sides playing, really.
Yep.
Yeah, two pretty average sides playing, and the more organized average side won. Like Bangladesh, I think they're summed up by the comments on the Cricket Info. There's an article by their board director has absolutely given them a tongue lashing publicly, and that just sums them up. That just sums up the whole thing. They've lost 2-0 at home, yes, but if you're whatever your position you hold, you don't do that the day after.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think they walk around on eggshells, and that's probably how they played, like desperate, going, oh no, this is our careers and sometimes our lives on the line.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I would say Pakistan maybe 20 years ago. If something happens, cricket board comes out and just sacks the coach or like the captain straight away,
Oh yeah.
And they Pakistan has kind of matured, in the last 20 years now. Like, they didn't sack Misbah straight away, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's sort of, I think they're more professional now, the PCB, in comparison to, I think, how Bangladesh cricket board is reacting exactly how Pakistan cricket board used to react about 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. Look, to simplify that, but it doesn't matter whether it's a sporting organization or a corporate organization. No management should come out and bollock their employee in public, should they? It's a behind closed doors.
Yeah, but if you're in the governance world, you should not get your business muddled up in the operational side of things.
Sure.
If you're in governance, you're in governance. If you're in operations, you're in operations. If you're in high performance, like you've got your different business units, and you kind of stick to that and ask questions through the right channels.
Through the right channels and behind closed doors.
Yeah, but don't come out. I mean, he's come out like literally. I think one of the comments he made was Soumya Sarkar, who replaced Shakib Al Hassan for the second test. He said, under normal circumstances, one of us or our board directors would be with the team. However, because of these biosecure bubbles, we haven't been able to be with the team. And put it this way, Sarkar was my fourth choice to replace Shakib.
Oh,
but he's not a selector, though.
No, he's not, but he was my fourth choice to replace Shakib. And I had all these three names, but the coach and the captain chose to go with them. So I look forward to having that conversation with them. Domingo, basically, he's going to head back to South Africa soon, I think.
But so, I mean, like you mentioned Shakib, he's out for the New Zealand tour as well. So that's a massive blow for Bangladesh. And I mean, obviously, you've got people in the back office going around making comments like that, and then you've got a tour New Zealand, and you've lost probably one of your best players, if not the best player. Not a great.
They're just coming. They may as well not come here. Like they're not gonna offer anything to New Zealand. Like if you look at what they're carrying there, they've got 4 spinners running their bowling attack. They had a seamer. I don't know his name because the scoreboard says one name, but the back of a shirt says another name. So I don't know who the guy is, but it was a right arm seamer. He bowled well enough. He actually bowled pretty well and picked up quite a few wickets in both test matches, I think. Abu Javed or something?
Abu Javed. He's played for Bangladesh before as well.
Yeah, so he bowled well. And
Is Murtaza
then
not on the scene anymore?
who's that?
Is Murtaza not on the scene anymore?
Nah, he's a politician. He only plays white ball cricket.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in the parliament. But they were heavily reliant on Mehdi Hassan, Taijul Islam, the Seamer, and they had one other guy.
Mahmudullah, what's his name? All-rounder
Nah,
batsman. who bowls.
Mahmudullah should have come in for this game. That's who the board directed wanted, but I think he had a back issue. Mosaddeq Hussain is in Abu Dhabi. I don't know how or why. He's there, and so yeah. So they had another guy as well. But Liton Das, is he a keeper?
Yes, yeah.
He's a keeper, isn't he? Yeah.
Liton Das, yeah.
So he's playing as a keeper, and Mushfiqi is also playing.
Mushfiqi obviously is one of their better batsmen, anyways.
Yeah. So he's a Monimol Haq.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
so-
their sort of test player.
The other guy who looks really nice was Shanto. Something Najmul Shanto, batted 3. He looked pretty organized. Didn't get going, but he was right. But they just looked very one-dimensional, spin-heavy, all the eggs in one basket. West Indies, on the other hand, had a lot more variety. Shannon Gabriel running in hard, Alzari Joseph bowling bounces and Yorkers, so they had a bit of variety. And then Rakeem Cornwall and Jamal Warrican. So they had a bit more variety to the attack. But I think the Kumra Bonner played really well throughout. And he's been around a long time. He scored quite a few runs. The guy Kyle May has obviously scored a double ton in the last day.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of a Chris Gale about him. Just kind of hangs back and throws his hands through it. But Nakumra Bonner was probably the best across the 2 tests. And then Joshua De Silva,
Yeah, the keeper batsman, eh?
keeper. Yeah. He looked really organized as well. Looked like actually really good technically. So I think
Right.
that will be pretty good wherever they go next, because if you add Roston Chase to that mix, you got another all rounder. Then you got Darren Bravo. Like if you take out Shane Mosley, who didn't really do too much, he pops out for Roston Chase, and Bravo comes in for maybe Myers. You'd have a decent batting attack.
Just seeing if I can quickly see if what might be up next for West Indies. Doesn't look
Because
like there's
Bangladesh
anything
is
coming up.
coming. So Bangladesh is coming over here for the T20s and one days, and that's back end of the season. So I don't think they will play that badly. If it was in November, or a test match in November, you can say that they will be out of their depths. But they play a lot of T20s, so I think they will probably show some fight, I would say, especially.
I hope so. But New Zealand, as hot as this is basically a team that's at the top of the pile with the team against pretty much the bottom of the pile. The 2 extremes.
Yeah.
New Zealand's in a
I know what
very
you mean,
good base at the moment. Playing at home, they're tough to beat at the best of times against the best of the teams.
Yeah.
But then put Bangladesh with that Shakib, you're heavily reliant on Mushfiqi.
I know what you mean, yeah. But because it is at the back end of the season, so the tracks would be drier,
I think what you might see is guys like Finn Allen and a couple of those boys get a couple of games.
Oh, yeah. That would be
good. They might try a few of these guys out.
Yeah.
And maybe Hamish Bennett will get a rest then, Taz.
Well,
we were just talking.
Getting selected again.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? He got picked.
Oh, is he selected?
Yeah.
Good on him. there must be a Canterbury connection from back when the management were looking after Canterbury side when he was coming through, because they obviously back him, so they must know that he delivers on something. I would have thought if Bangladesh is coming, maybe to Australia, you need his experience, but surely there's some younger options you could kind of try out.
Well, it's only for the Australia.
CD is the top wicket taker.
Who's that? Tickner?
Yeah, he's the top wicket taker in the Super Smash. So he's obviously hasn't been called up. And Bennett is not in top 10.
Nah, but I thought after that mauling he took against someone when he got carted around earlier in the who was that against? They played the T20s or something.
Yeah,
Pakistan
yeah, I
or
know. It's
or
been. I
West
think
Indies?
you.
Pakistan is it? When he got taken
Yeah,
for about 36 or something ridiculous. Oh, West Indies.
West Indies, yeah.
West Indies.
Yeah, yeah. When he got absolutely carted around, I thought that would be the end of him and that's it. But to be fair, I was speaking to one of the guys who said, look, he's had a bit of a resurgence with his slow balls and change ups and stuff, and he's had sustained success for the last 2-3 years with the white ball stuff. So he's
Yeah.
probably deserved it.
Yeah.
What about
But they have been
what?
pretty consistent with him, though.
Yeah.
He's been in and out the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, I know it wasn't T20s necessarily, but I think it was in the ODI series. You've had the two Sheet and Williams from Canterbury, the young fellas that have
Yeah.
been doing pretty well. Would you sort of
Yeah.
look at giving them a chance against the
I mean,
Bangladesh?
I think the guys you'd probably really start looking at would be your Seth Rance, probably would be an option ahead of Bennett, even against Australia. He's
Yep.
got good white ball skills. Against someone like a Bangladesh, maybe a Dougie Bracewell as an all-rounder spot if De Groneham's not ready.
Yep.
There you've got someone like him can have a crack. There seems to be a couple of
Matt
very
Henry.
quick ones.
Matt,
Eh?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Matt
Henry.
He missed
And
out.
you could try a couple of bolters too, right? Like there's meant to be the Wellington quick, the left armer.
Ben
He's
Sears.
meant to be, he's meant to be very quick. So he
Yep.
could be someone you could literally kind of find out more about them, a bit like how they did with Tim Seifert a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's enough there. I mean, someone like what would they do with the spin? Maybe like Ajas Patel, maybe even for spin to see what he can do in the white ball stuff.
Yep. So you got, especially looking forward towards the T20 World Cup, then having the options of some variety when you go to it, and you've tried out some options.
I'd personally look at Rachin Ravindra just to see if he can offer an over or two with ball and then hold himself with the bat. I think that'll give them that third spin option if you go to Asia.
Yep.
I mean, it's
I think
interesting, isn't it? Looking at someone like Rachin Ravindra, I mean, that's the great thing for him, for his future, is that he's actually very good with. Well, yeah, he's obviously a very good batsman, but he's a very very handy bowler as well.
And I think Colin McConaughey as well. Like, obviously he's been bowling new ball for Canterbury, or he's been bowling in top 6. And apart from the final, he has actually had some success or sneaking in a few overs. So you've got those sort of spin bowling batsmen who bowl spin. And if you're playing T20 World Cup, you probably need, like either, the Wellington guy or maybe even McConaughey.
Yeah, like McConaughey, I played very little against, but I don't know anything about Rachin. I wouldn't even recognize him if I saw him. But from what I hear, it's literally chalk and cheese what you're talking about in terms of quality between those two players. He's miles in front. I spoke to a couple of guys who are current players in that system, and they just were like in awe of how talented this guy is.
Okay, sure.
This was about 18 months ago. They were like, "Oh my god, this guy should be playing now."
Okay, sure. It's just the numbers, eh? Like, obviously, he hasn't been consistent enough,
This year, he hasn't. I think he's had a second season. It's a second season syndrome happening now.
Yeah.
And you kind of have a nice strong start, and instead of consolidating in the second season, you are thrown into this high performance program where everybody now wants to leverage off your existing skill set to take you to the next level. And you almost, in my very limited knowledge, I think you kind of start seeking too far up, and you kind of lose your foundations and go backwards a little bit. And then
Do you also have the element? Do you also have the element of the fact is that with video footage these days, is that you have that first year you come in, people don't know your game, so especially with your bowling side of things, they don't know exactly what you're going to bring to the table. The second year they've seen you, they know what you can do, and therefore they're more prepared to face you.
I think that's the last thing what you just said is probably on point. Where first year they know who you are. They'll find out through the age group people if you're a youngster what you bring to the party, but they don't really worry about you. Second season they'll stop for a second, take notice, and go, okay, let's just plan for him. That's all it is, and then they'll find you out. They'll actually they'll actually consider you as a threat for a moment, and they'll come up with plans. That's all it is. But
Sure.
at the same time, in your second season, you're chasing glory, right? So you're running away from what you'd done well last year.
Yep.
So you're actually playing into their hands. They're planning for your demise, and you're actually going away from your own game plan.
You're feeding into it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a happy marriage. That's where the collapses happen in the second year. Third year, the bar set really low because you had a poor second year, so you can eke your way back up.
And you sort of think, oh, I better go back to what worked for me, which was in the first year.
And you set the bar low, right, in the second year. So
the only way is up.
yeah, and then
to
some
remember
coach is going to take all the credit for bringing you back from the dumps.
Who went back to his boyhood coach who's fixed his technique.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose before we wrap it up, I think actually, will we be into? I'm gonna just see. Oh God, I'll stuff things up here a bit. Sorry.
Are you checking if we're in lockdown next week as well?
Well, we don't know what's happening next week, do we? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I touched on it a bit earlier, but we've got 22nd of Feb, New Zealand, Australia, and Christchurch in the South Island. They're at level 2. The game could still go ahead, even if there's only 100 people at the ground.
Yeah.
No,
if we're at level 2,
can they get away with it by saying 100 people per designated area?
Oh, section.
Stands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I was being a little bit facetious when I said 100 people for the ground. Yeah, no, they could actually segment off parts of the ground and have 100 people per
bubble
section. Yeah, people bubble of 100
But
people.
I mean, the thing is, there will be a lot more people who have bought the tickets, though. So it'll be interesting how.
Because it's a sellout. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a sellout.
I think they can. You'd like to think they'd drop South Island down to 1 because there's nothing happening there.
Yeah, I suppose we'll find out Wednesday, won't we? When how things are going. Let's take the assumption that things go back. We drop some levels down, so games go ahead. You know, being a classic Kiwi myself, I'm sort of thinking, oh no, it's Australia. Oh, we're going to struggle. How should we look forward to this series against Australia?
What do you reckon, Tez?
Well, I guess like New Zealand, it's the form. Like on form, New Zealand is obviously sort of has been winning, and the vibe generally is good. Whereas Australia, they had some obviously lost to India, but more importantly, there were some. There's a rift in the sort of the squad, or what you can call the issues with the coach and all that stuff. So keeping all that in mind, New Zealand is in good health, and on form, New Zealand should be sort of should be able to put up a good fight.
Yeah, I think if New Zealand puts the right combinations out and doesn't try things, and one of their big boys with bat and ball stand up, we should win this comfortably.
Do we have a little bit of concern with Guptill's form? I mean, obviously, it'd be nice. You'd feel a bit more comfortable if you had him going out there in his usual form. Obviously, he's in a bit of a slump. He's got an injury there. We talked about this before. That could either see him going out there not at 100 or the introduction of Finn Allen.
I think he'll be. Yeah, I reckon if he goes out the park, his form's not a problem.
Okay.
His form, yeah, he's played over 100 something games, across the board in white ball cricket, and probably the type of guy who'll just front up more and more the bigger the challenge. Like, I don't think that would be a concern, and they're not bringing anything to the party that is going to threaten him or is going to be new to him. If anything, it's a bit light compared to what they're bringing, so that wouldn't be an issue. Is he going to get on the park? Is probably the question for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. In terms of his injury being. Yeah. No, I'm just looking at the Australian squad. I'm looking at the Australian squad, and Cummins, no Stark.
Because they were scheduled to go to South Africa.
Yeah, but I would have thought I honestly thought once that got cancelled that they'd actually be bringing over a stronger squad, but obviously not.
No, they announced that they wouldn't change the squad, and I think Aaron Finch said it's a bit of a fact-finding mission for them.
Yep.
And when somebody
Yes.
says that, they're pretty much, absconding on the results. They're kind of going, "Oh, we're not expecting much in terms of results. We're just wanting to check out players."
Yeah.
So that shows, where their heads at.
Yeah.
Yep. Because when you look at it, you've got it's the bowling lineup that I always look at in terms of that, and you've always had that threat of a Cummins and Stark and Hazelwood, but yeah, no, you got to. I mean, Andrew Ty still bowls over 140, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then you've got your Kane Richardsons and Jason Behrendorff.
Kane Richardson's been here before, and they've struggled plenty
Yep.
times. Australians will come here. The wickets here will be slower. It just won't suit them. I just can't see it unless their batters get going. And if we have our bowlers at full strength, like Bolt, Saudi, I don't think Ferguson's not playing, is he?
No,
No.
Ferguson's not playing.
I think he's out for the season.
Jameson is in the squad, and
Yep.
then you've got
And Hamish Bennett.
Hamish Bennett, so.
So that's exactly why I said if we get our combinations right.
Yep.
Yes, I stressed on getting the combinations right. Then I think, like
Will you play two spinners?
Is it Ish and
Setner?
Yeah, I think and that's where not having a De Gruyter home. Is Nisham back?
Nishan's
Yes.
playing. Yeah, he's in the squad.
Yeah, but Daryl Mitchell.
No, Daryl Mitchell's not in the squad, and we're trying to figure out whether he's injured because he only bowled one over in the Super Smash.
Final.
Oh. I think if you had De Gruyter home there, it guarantees you to play your two spinners because he offers you that bowling option or fourth seaming option.
Yeah.
If you place, if Saudi's playing, Bolt's playing, that's two. That's basically 10 and 11 sorted. Then I think so. Satna would have to bat 7, Jameson 8, Saudi 9, Sodi 10, Bolt 11.
Yeah.
That leaves you light on the batting front, I think, because I personally would like to say Satna would be an amazing 8. But at 7, if you can make inroads up top, you can put pressure on the lower order.
He has surprised me,
He's a
but
world-class
I'd agree
8,
with you.
But he's not.
Yep.
He's a world-class 8, but what class does he fit under at that level at 7? I don't know.
Yeah.
If they get a good start, is enough. But if they don't, can they keep pressing hard through the middle periods and keep losing wickets?
Do you think with Jimmy Neesham, one thing I noticed with Jimmy Neesham is that he seems, when he's in a game, he's almost like Jekyll and Hyde in a game. He'll have a couple of horrible overs. He'll get carted around the park. And then they give him throwing the ball back later on in the innings, and you think, oh no! And he'll actually come in and bowl 2 good overs. And conversely, he'll start off bowling 2 good overs and get carted around the park for this last one, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That seems to be what happens to him.
Yeah, I think if anything, looking at the squad and what you're saying, I reckon we'd be lighter on the batting front, and I'm wondering who are we missing here?
It does feel like we're missing somebody in the batting. It does.
There's a big name missing.
Ross Taylor.
Yeah, actually, Ross Taylor's name's not there.
He hasn't been picked, so.
So that's if you're Australia looking at that batting lineup, you're going, that's a bit green, right? If Martin Guptill doesn't get on the park, you're only really having to worry about Kane Williamson. The rest are all good, great ball strikers with no real established international numbers to talk to.
Yep, absolutely. It's and I mean, I suppose that's the thing. Who would you have brought in if you were Gavin Larson? Who would you be putting into that squad in terms of strengthening up the batting?
Ross Taylor through pure experience.
Ross Taylor. I was going to say Ross Taylor aside. Is there anybody else that you sort of think out of what you've seen in this year's Super Smash, for example?
Nah. I think that's the cream of the crop.
Tom Bruce from CD probably, if anybody.
But I don't think he's done anything that consistently.
Yeah.
Above these names.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets in front of these names.
What's Will Young, George Walker?
Guys, Will Young,
think
yeah,
Will
Will
Young
Young has
could
been
have.
in form.
Yeah, I think Will Young could have probably challenged Mark Chapman, but is that a case of couple of left-handers needed?
Oh, so you think sort of looking at the squad in terms of left and right hand mix as well?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, good.
And are they even thinking Chapman to bowl a couple of overs, maybe one
Yes, yeah.
through the middle, so they
Probably,
don't have to play a second spinner?
To be fair, I
I
think
think
I
that'll
mean
be
when you look
dicey.
at when you compare the Auckland players that have been selected, Mark Chapman's probably the fair choice because he's come back from injury and actually scored some runs.
Not many Auckland players will justify selection this season, will they?
No. I mean, as I said, Mark Chapman would be the only one because of the fact that he didn't play. I mean, he did come back in those last few rounds. He did actually manage to score a few runs at a pretty good strike rate as well.
And Phillips has just scored 100 in his last international game, so yeah, I think
Yes.
that they're not names, but yeah, they're all very exciting players. So if they get away on any given day, we could easily be 5 down for 50 or 150 for 2 of 12.
Yeah. Nah, cool. All right. Well, I suppose we've actually gone on for quite a while, haven't we, Taz?
Yeah,
We've done extra time. Paul's going to have to get that
I do
overtime sheet out.
apologize. I was looking forward to it. I just got my time
That's all
zones
right.
wrong.
Well, as we said, we don't know what's going to happen with lockdown, so we might have availability next week as well, won't we? So we'll be quite good. We'll see what. Well, we don't. As I said, we don't know what's going to happen. We'll wait and see.
Yeah,
Well,
no worries.
I see Paul's just brought something up for us that he obviously wants us to have a chat about before we
No,
disappear.
it's just a leaving comment as we discussed the pitch earlier in India. There, of course, we got to the pitch. The next two will be dust bowls that turn sideways. England can cry while they watch the Lords. Is apparently the message from the Indian team. So brilliant. That's good.
Hello,
thank you
I saw a few English commentators and even friends of mine kind of complain about the pitch and this and that. But how is that any different to turning up in England in May and whoever wins the toss bowls first and rattle the team at Trent Bridge for 60 and then bats for 2.5 days? Whoever wins the toss wins the game. So I don't know how suddenly the English commentators are saying the toss dictates the game. And India somehow in the second innings have actually scored more than England in the first innings a day later.
Yeah. It's just the skill and it's obviously relevant skill to the relevant sort of pitches that you need.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, you come here, New Zealand don't produce flat wickets unless you're threatened that we won't come back for another tour for 10 years. But, New Zealand's going to produce green ones. They don't even play a spinner when the Asian teams turn up. So it's no different. So I think, the sooner we get past that. And England England has won. England has won 5 Test matches in a row away from home.
Oh, you've definitely played to local community. I guess the only thing Taz was saying was it was just he mentioned that England won the toss, batted first in the first innings, got a good score, and that was it. Was over. You don't want the game being decided by the toss. But that's the only. So now whether you start off with a dust bowl that's already deteriorated, but so at least that's something that so it's not so it doesn't just come down to the toss as to who wins the Test match.
I think the other thing is that as you just said, Taryn, is the fact is that but the problem England's got is that now India's come out in their second dig at bat and ended up at 194 for 6. Obviously, no lack of pressure on there at that point, but still they've applied themselves possibly better than England did in the same situation.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, and I think you got to ask the question. Did England just kind of convince themselves that the toss was everything, and as soon as they lost the toss and saw 200, 300 put on them, they've kind of resigned to their fate?
Like that.
And that kind of showed up in the way they batted?
Yeah. Like little midget cricketers do on a Saturday morning.
But then had they won the toss, they'd be up for it, going, "Oh yeah, we can do something, similar to the first test." Their mindset shift is massive.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yeah,
interesting that he said that publicly, though.
I know that's a weird thing to say publicly, isn't it? It's like, geez, mind you, yeah. I don't know what Ben Stokes said to Pant on. Maybe that's sort of stirred the pot a bit.
And look, it's perhaps not the right word. Of course, we prepared the pitch rather than doctored it. There's a slight.
They've actually got a mat underneath it. Remember the old days of the myth of the mat underneath it? They used to actually tighten or loosen depending on who was batting and bowling.
What?
I don't think it was ever real. It was, but that's sort of like the myths that used to go around. Is this like when they were batting, you tighten it so it'd be a faster, and when it was when turned to bowl, you loosen it so that it'd turn more and etc. So yeah.
So this is why New Zealand and Australia have drop-in pitches, is it?
Absolutely. They don't realise it. Teams that come over here don't realise that overnight the drop-in pitch gets changed out.
Replaced.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got way longer than normal. Thank you.
Before we just go off, as Aaron just alluded to, there is a tournament that he's involved with in the organisation of the Indo-Kiwi tournament that gets played out at mainly out at Avondale in Auckland, the Eastdale and Riversdale reserves. So if you have got a few moments to spare and want to go see some not bad quality cricket with T20 games happening out there, head on out there to watch the games on the weekend. There's the Facebook page to see when the games are on, and hang around for the Man of the Match award from given by Jim's Test and Tag Mount Eden.
Awesome.
No, it's been quite
is that the same company that does Jim Beams, or?
No, not quite there. Not quite there. But it is something that you can enjoy after the match with to cool off with a drink.
Yeah, no, it's quite a popular tournament among the South Asian community in Auckland, and every year they look forward to it. I know my team has been playing it for 10 years now, so it's something they always plan for and plan ahead, and very well received and very well organized. Like for last how many years I've been playing it. A lot of Premier cricketers play in that as well, so it's not the standard is actually not too bad. It has to be on artificials because of obviously it's on a Sunday and we have to get a few games done. But the standard in general is actually pretty good in terms of the T20s.
No, it's and I think I've been out there obviously the last couple of weekends and seen a bit of the cricket being played, and the guys just love it, don't they? It's the enjoyment that the guys getting in the teams getting out of it is fantastic.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Taron,
and the food's awesome.
I never played in it. 13 years of its existence, I've never been involved.
Oh no, you have to change that. You might have to become as a ringer.
Season. I was involved in the 10th season with the organizational side of things, but never played it. No. I think it's a different brand of cricket, different way to play it, different skill set, and yeah, I don't think I have those skills.
You're selling yourself short there.
Format. Nah, it's a tough gig. The way they play the whole thing, it's the way it's played and the passion and stuff.
Yep, definitely passionate.
My body's pretty sore on Sundays after a Saturday, so yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks for coming on the show again. And as we said before, Taz and I will put in our overtime sheets to Paul, and we'll and make sure you tune in for as Paul mentioned, the morning sports briefing. He'll give you an update on where the England-India game is at tomorrow morning at 7:00, and we'll be back again at Swinging from the Hip. Hopefully, my commitments won't get in the way. Maybe we're still in lockdown, and we'll have Taz and Taron and a few others coming along as well for the show next week. So make sure you get in front of a screen and watch whatever cricket you can, or get out to the local park, and we'll see you back here again next week on Swinging from the Hip. Thank you very much.
Cool.